Welcome, everyone. We'll begin in a moment. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to begin promptly because I know your time is very valuable. Welcome to our module today on ensuring equity and access for oral ELL and ML learners. Our presentation today is brought to you by Solved and the TAIL Academy. I'm happy to have you all here. Our presentation today is being recorded. So if you are feeling camera shy, feel free to have your camera off. That is fine. I respect that. My name is Maura Musso, and I am an instructional consultant with Solved Consulting. I am also a professor of early childhood and childhood education at SUNY New Paltz in the Hudson Valley, and a New York State certified elementary school teacher and a certified literacy specialist. I've had experience teaching learners from preschool through adults, and I'm happy to be here with you today. So just some norms to get us started for our presentation today. I am going to hold tight to this one down here, start and end on time. I know that your time is very important, and I want to make sure that I am respectful of that for you. I'd like you to focus on this one in yellow in the top corner, taking an inquiry stance. You're here today, presumably because you work with English language learners or multilingual learners, and you're looking to find some different tools, different strategies, different thoughts to bring back to your classroom. So I would like to ask you today to focus on thinking about your classroom and your students and what from this presentation can be applicable to your day-to-day work. So now I'd like to know a little bit about you. If you could take a moment, just type in the chat your name, the grade or grades that you teach, the subjects that you teach. And since we're focusing on English language learners and multilingual learners, just some of the home languages of some of the students that you're teaching. All right, so it looks like we have some self-contained classrooms, some ELA classrooms, 6th grade. Welcome. Pre-K constructional coordinator, welcome. High schools, phys ed, language is Spanish, the Gali. Kindergarten, ELL. Science, we have some people with Spanish, Haitian, Creole, Arabic. We have some paraprofessionals, welcome. Spanish, wow, French, Arabic, Russian, so many different languages popping up here. In fact, according to New York State Ed, there are 151 home languages of our students in the New York State public school system. And the top 3, and we're seeing some of those popping up here in our chat today, our top 3 are Spanish, Chinese, and Arabic. So chances are during your teaching career, you are going to encounter an English language learner or a multilingual learner in your classroom. So today we're going to be using a note catcher for our work. And if you click on this link here where it says shared note catcher, it'll prompt you to make a copy of this. I know some of you might be participating on your phone and this may not work for you, but this will be sent to you at the end of our presentation as well, so you have access to this. Our note catcher will be used for you to gather some of your thoughts today on information that we're sharing. And it will also be used to consolidate some of the information that I'm presenting to you so that you have that in a document to take away with you. We will also be at the end of our time together today working with some of our colleagues in breakout rooms. And this shared note catcher document will give you the prompts for your discussion for that as well. So if you can take a moment and just open that up so you have access to that. So for our professional learning intentions today, we are going to focus on considering the Universal Design for Learning guidelines. And we're going to take a look at the research base for high impact practices to engage, represent, and express in multiple languages and ways. We are going to be focused on looking at how we can provide equity and access when we're teaching our English language learners and our multi-language learners. So again, I prompt you to focus in on what you're doing in your classroom, what's going on with your students, and keep track of what catches your attention. What from today's work can influence your instruction? So for our time together today, we are going to start with engaging and looking at some mindset research. And then we are going to explore universal designs for learning and portable practices and tools that we can use in our classroom. And we will end by doing a reflection application. So just some key terms to get us started today. Historically, the terms English language learner was kind of used very broadly. You may use in your school system ELL or ESL. And this was meant to describe students whose home or native language is a language other than English. And the consideration was that these are students who need support to develop their English language proficiency. Today, efforts are being made to replace these terms, either ELL or ESL, with the term multilingual learner. So you're going to hear this referred to in different speakers in different videos throughout the presentation. You'll hear some referring to ELL, some to ESL, some to ML. And so our multilingual learners are students who are developing proficiency in multiple languages. So this includes students who are learning English as an additional language in school. So they're kind of learning English in our elementary schools, in our middle schools, in our high schools, simultaneously to developing that home language as well. So I'm going to start with an activity today. And I'm going to play you a video of a child, an ELL student, who is in a traditional English speaking classroom. And as you're watching this video, I want you to think about, what if you were a fly on the wall in this classroom? What if you were this teacher's colleague or this teacher's coach? What would you suggest that this teacher do in this situation with this student? I'm hoping that this sound is going to work correctly. Just give me a thumbs up in the chat if you can hear this.
Are going to be hard, but that's all right because we're going to try really hard. Isn't that right, Cameron?
Yes, Ms. Peters.
Okay, great. Everyone listen up. So we're going to want to work on we get ours from the answer and the information in the story, okay? We're gonna go ahead and test factual tests and try this actus test. Test your open up. So we're gonna page. You go to page. First on page 3.
¿Qué dijo? ¿A poco va a empezar el examen? No, es una práctica.
We're gonna take notes from the story and we're gonna turn it into a math problem and we're gonna walk through it together, okay? So the boy ran 3 blocks. So everyone write 3 blocks. How long did it take him to run 3 blocks? Michelle?
6 minutes.
Very good, 6 minutes. All right, so then we're gonna take 3 blocks and 6 minutes,
¿Por qué el
right?
niño corre con los bloques? ¿Qué? Sí, ¿por qué el niño corre con los bloques? No,
Okay, so the
corre 3
questions are
calles.
gonna go on to ask us, how long will it take him to run 20 blocks? What do we do? How many minutes is that per block?
8 minutes.
Try and remember to raise your hand if you want to answer, okay? No, it's not 8 minutes. Michelle?
18 minutes?
Nope, not 18 minutes. Yes, Enrique?
40?
40, yeah, very good. How'd you get 40?
I don't know.
You don't know? Well, 40 is the right answer. How did you get it?
I forgot.
You forgot. Okay. Does anyone know how we get 40? Yes, Moises. Yep, that's right. Very good. Great. Can you tell us how you got that?
40?
Yep, very good. But can you explain to the class what you did here, how you got that?
40?
Okay, all right, you guys, settle down.
I feel so dumb.
Joe, do you want to lose your recess?
No.
Okay, then. Thank you, Moises.
Can you help me, please?
Can you take a walk with me? I don't want you to worry about the test, okay, Moises?
Sí, estoy preocupada sobre el examen. La directora Rosa dijo que todavía tenemos que hacer.
Just try your best, okay? Do you understand? Not importante.
Sí, sí es importante.
You're right, Moises. It is important.
So from watching your faces as you were watching this video, I see that many of you can feel for Moises and what's going on here in this classroom. And I want to jump in there and hug him, right? And help this. What's going on here? What do you see going on with this teacher? What could you suggest to this teacher that could help her in helping Moises? You can either jump off of mute and just speak or just type in the chat, whatever your thoughts are.
I think that will help putting some of this, like a student that speak Spanish next to him. It will help too.
Yes, partnering with a student who shares the same home language can be
Yeah,
helpful.
the same language.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm.
I see some ideas in the chat. Yep. Home language support in the chat, provide translated versions of the test, go over multiple meaning words such as blocks, allow students to use a computer with translator open so they can type or speak their explanation and receive translation in real time, have anchor charts up. So many great ideas here in the chat. With common math vocabulary, English, students' home language, model the problems using manipulative home language support. She could have used more pictures to help him, Spanish versions. Instruction can be chunked or demonstrated, task written in Spanish, a language para, of course. Yeah, so many great ideas we have in the chat here that we could help this student who is struggling. And as we can see, he has this great math knowledge, that he was the only one in the class that was actually able to figure out the math solution, but he didn't have that language to share. And so one of our things I want to keep thinking about, Moises, today as we're going through and thinking about students like him in our classes, and how we can support them even if we don't speak their same home language. So our research shows us that providing students with native language support is really a critical part of instruction for our English learners. Our multilingual learners' languages and cultures are assets. They're valuable resources that we should be using in our classroom to develop independence and agency and learning for them. And this is evident in the new New York State blueprint for our ELL and ML students. And this is a document that I'm not even sure you know exists. This is out there for us as teachers to be kind of focusing in on, because the state wants to include strong support for our ELLs and MLs in our classrooms. And so this is available to you in our shared notes. I have a clip of this and a link to this for you to take away as well. So in our session today, we're going to focus on Principle 7 here of this New York State Blueprint for ELL and ML students. And in this, item 7 is that districts and school communities will leverage the ELL's home languages, cultures, assets, and prior knowledge. So if we take a deeper look into this, this is kind of a change in mindset from the way in which we have been teaching our ELLs and MLs in the past. So this graphic is from Principle 7 of the New York State Blueprint for Success, and it requires our teachers to kind of change their mindset of what we can do to using, even if we don't speak the ML's first language. So we look at what we used to be doing. So in the past, when we had students who were learning English in our classroom, one of the first thought was, let's require them to use English exclusively so that they were getting that English practice. Research is telling us now that that is not what's most helpful for these students, and that we need to leverage our students' home languages to help them learn English off of that. Our old mindset, we used to regard their home language as a problem, and in some cases, even encouraging them to use more English at home. Research has shown us, experience has showed us that their home languages are instructional assets. And so just being experienced with language, even if it is not English language, is going to help them in their learning. Our old mindset was that we were disregarding prior knowledge gains in their home languages as not being useful. But research now tells us that using their home languages helps them to bridge their prior knowledge to the new contents that they're being taught in school. So that all of those things they're learning in their home experiences in their native language are creating different places within their brains to connect this new language, this new knowledge that we are teaching them in school. And so that's an asset. And finally, our old mindset of considering that their home language, just keep that at home. Don't bring that to school. Research is telling us that was also not the way to go, and that we need to use their home language as an asset to assessing their student understanding and knowing what they know, having them express that in their home language, using their home language to ensure that content is meaningful and comprehensible to them. And so that we want to even if we can't communicate in that language with them fluently, it's still an asset. It's still something we need to be connecting to for them. So this brings us to this idea of, well, how do we help everybody? And so one of the tools for doing this comes back to universal design. And when we think about the concept of universal design, one of the big examples of this is the curb cut that we see on so many of our streets, where we're coming from the street onto our sidewalks today. And this curb cut was made, this slope, for people in wheelchairs, people in walkers, to be able to transition from streets to sidewalks without having to go up this bump. And it was necessary for people who were in wheelchairs, people who were using walkers, for them to be able to transition from street to sidewalk. It was a necessary thing for them. But once it came in, it was realized this is not all, these are not the only people who are benefiting from this. Yes, it's great for the person in the wheelchair, it's person in the walker, but the parent pushing their child in a stroller, this is really useful for them. A person on a bike or on a skateboard, this is really useful for them. So this idea of universal design kind of became that what's good for, what's needed for some is essentially good for all. It's even good for people walking who just don't have to take that step up. And so this idea of the UDL framework is that all students can work towards the same firm goal with the same state standards, but they can do it in flexible means. We can change things up in our classroom that is making it beneficial to our ELLs and our MLs, but is also helping all of our students. And so that all students will become expert learners if our barriers are removed. So we figure out how we can help them, how we can connect to them, and we can get them engaged and get their engagement deeper. Universal design is often confused with differentiation of instruction. And while these are similar, they are not the same thing. So when we think about universal design, we're thinking about all students being able to self-differentiate based upon giving them different options, given choices from their teacher, so that we are changing things in the classroom so that they can take what they need and apply it to their own learning. Whereas differentiation of instruction, or DI, is based on us creating instruction. The teacher is creating new instruction based on their assessment of students. So I see a student seems to need this, so I'm going to create that within my instruction. So I see that my ELLs are going to be struggling with a book that I'm going to be reading to the whole class today. So I take them in a small group and preview the book. I do a picture walk. I take them through some of the vocabulary that might be challenging, those multiple meaning words. I'm changing my instruction and giving them different instruction. That's DI. For universal design, I'm putting different things out there for my students to be able to use themselves, so that if they're struggling, they can look at these other options. My anchor charts around, my technology tools. And we're going to take a look at some other tools that will help our students in this universal design for learning. So we're going to focus on looking at universal design for learning on making our classrooms accessible to all students, our ELLs, our MLs. And so when we talk about universal design for learning in terms of accessibility, We're looking to create flexible learning environments, flexible learning spaces that are going to accommodate different learning bases. And this video will talk a little bit deeper about accessibility and UDL.
Accessibility is one of the key foundational principles of universal design for learning, and it's a component of universal design for learning, but is not by itself universal design for learning. We always think, or the way we sometimes phrase it is that accessibility is essential but insufficient on its own to be universal design for learning. Accessibility is really captured in the first principle of UDL, which is multiple representations of information. And from an instructional perspective, it's an old mantra of you can't reach them, you can't teach them. That information has to be accessible and presented in a variety of ways: audio, print, tactile, graphically, by video, as many possible ways as there are to make sure that people can get the information they need. Whereas UDL really expands beyond that and talks about action and expression, how people exhibit mastery, how they can express their achievement, how they can really articulate well what it is they know. And then the third principle, really thinking about engagement, how we engage learners to enforce and enhance their persistence in ways that really can support them in the face of challenges.
So again, let's chat about what's going on in your classrooms, because that's really what this is all about. How do you see yourselves using UDL in your classrooms already? Or is there ways in which you already are seeing that you can make some changes within your classrooms? Oops.
Accessibility.
Feel free to go in the chat or come on off mute if you would like to share some of your thoughts.
Can you restate the question, please?
So knowing a little bit now about UDL, how do you see yourself using that in your classroom? How do we already are. What do you see? What components of UDL do you see in your classrooms right now, or things that you're thinking about as you're learning about it? Like, oh, I can change this in my classroom.
So most importantly, the modifications that I make to during lesson planning. In addition to that, the language that I use during that time.
Can you give an example?
Sure. So the simplification of it, in fact. So for example, let's say perfect example. I am currently doing a unit about a brown girl, and during that time, it's about the brown girl, and she is having trouble expressing herself, getting to being able to and then comparing her to her sister. So with that being said, the way that I will modify is that when I'm doing my mini lesson, she had to write her name. So I will have the ELL student go up and write their name. Maybe I'm not, let me go back. Yeah, so it's just the modifications that I will make during the time of what I ask to be done, who I choose to do it, and the explanation I give them for, and the response that I give them for their success.
Awesome. Yeah. So I hear you saying that the different choices that you're giving without, and that's completely
Absolutely.
what we're looking for. Yes. Awesome. Thank you. And some really great comments within the chat as well. Technology is really big for UDL. And it's a really great tool for us in the classroom. Cheryl uses computers and devices for instruction and translation. And that is a wonderful way to do it. Christine uses Google Translate, but is also lucky enough to have a language para who reinforces lessons. And that is wonderful to have somebody in there. Alexander allows students to translate using cell phones to help translate questions and answers. Leona makes content more accessible by doing more background building and integrating key vocabulary into daily lessons. And that vocabulary piece is essential, right? The more vocabulary our students acquire, the more they're going to be able to excel in our classrooms. Nadia, using platforms such as Padlet to gamify lessons to increase engagement and provide multiple ways for students to demonstrate their comprehension. For example, adding text or pictures to the corkboard page. And I love that idea, that term, Nadia, of gamifying lessons, because we want to make this fun for students, right? If we think about it, if we think back to Moises and how stressed he looked in sitting in that classroom, and how not fun that was for him, why would we want to do that every day? So yeah, gamifying lessons to get them more engaged. I love that idea. Phoebe uses lots of digital materials so students can translate as needed. So there's that UDL piece, they can figure out what they need. It's also easy to add illustrations. Sometimes I have the English book available side by side with the Spanish version. Yes, and whenever their same books are out there in multiple different languages, that's an awesome experience for our students. Felicia creates a multilingual Pictionary. That's awesome. I love that idea. Felicia has laptops for students in the classroom, so using Google Translate in real time, translating information on slideshows. That's an awesome idea. So that they are able to have English and Spanish simultaneously. Word-to-word dictionaries. Raz Plus, yep, has leveled books in multiple languages. Oh, Christine wanted to know about Padlet. Christine, Padlet is a sharing app technology that you can, everybody can participate in. So you send out a link and everybody has a device and they can just share right onto the same screen, putting in their information. So it's kind of very interactive. Carol uses digital and paper materials in class, doing vocabulary, English and Spanish. So yeah, so many great ideas. There's so many things that you're already currently doing that are helping our students. And this idea, one of the big things, that we can do to help our students all together is this idea of sharing, of seeing things, of, oh, wow, this is what my colleague is doing in the classroom. Taking some different information. With my college students that are teacher candidates, they want to be in your position of having a classroom. I often say to them that, teaching is not reinventing the wheel over and over again. It's a shared experience, that the best teachers are the ones who are out there talking, sharing, seeing what their colleagues are doing, and putting that all together. So these are some really great ideas. Yes, this is a much better discussion of Padlet here. So I like that online post-it wall. That's a great way of thinking of it. No worries, people are just popping in. I totally understand that you have lots of things going on. Melissa said a student sits next to a classmate who speaks the same whole language but is more proficient in English, and that's a great way to have them work together. Another tool that we can use with our students is called translanguaging. And so this is based on this idea of using what they already have as a linguistic repertoire. So what they already know about language in their native language, what they have learned from their own perspective about any content area, about any social norms, that they can take that from their native language and transfer that into the classroom. So if we look, what that means in the classroom is that we are using different pathways. So again, that we're thinking about this mindset that our L's and our MLs are not at a complete disadvantage. They're not disabled. That their bilingualism is actually an asset, and that we need to leverage this asset that they already have for their learning. So instead of looking at this as a frustration, as I can't reach these students because I don't speak their language, using these different tools that we just shared, and more, the more that we can come across, to be able to let them access what their knowledge is in their native language and leverage that for what we're teaching. We also need to notice, utilize, and expand opportunities where all languages are welcome. And you guys already shared some really great ideas of ways of using visuals, using different translating tools for speaking, for listening, for reading and writing. And so bringing all of those in and working all of those together. And then, as we have already talked about, those technology, multiple entry points, using technology to allow students to access multiple languages. And so putting all of this together in our classroom makes language much more accessible for our students. And an example in doing this is using our multiple languages. So if they are hearing us teaching in English, or they're reading books in English, and then we allow them to do their writing or to do their speaking in their native language. So it's not completely overwhelming to them, and they're being able to leverage what they already know and they're already comfortable and confident in. Similarly, another tool is this idea of the preview, view, and review strategy. So in this, and this is similar to how you may already be teaching, that switching languages for the students. So we do our previewing using the language opposite to the language of instruction. So maybe we do our previewing in their native language, in their home language. And then we do our teaching in English. And then we go back and we review in their home language, so that we're able to catch them in all different stages of learning. Some other strategies for scaffolding our language for our L's and our MLs can be seen in this graphic here. And again, this and all of the different graphics are available to you on that note catcher, so that you have these to take away. So for this, just some ideas of things that you may be doing in your classroom, where you are reading aloud, modeling using gestures, facial expressions, so big hand movements, and things for our students. People have already brought up, the intentional partnering of our students, putting them into, intentional small groups, intentional pairings. Someone already shared, using language and giving them the language, like sentence starters and sentence structures, so that they are not having to think in terms of very broad vocabulary. We can narrow them in. Content, connecting to background knowledge, what they already know within their experience. Yes, Eleni, I see that your note just popped up. I'm sorry. Yes, make a copy of the note catcher. Providing graphic organizers, great tool in our classrooms. Providing visuals, we've already talked about. So You guys are all, from what you're sharing already, are well on your way for scaffolding your learning for your ELLs and your MLs. You have all of this going on already. So kudos, I applaud you for that. So I want to do a little activity with you now in smaller groups. We're a bigger group, and so this, having full discussion is a little hard. So I'm going to send you to some breakout rooms, and we're going to use the same note catcher that you've already opened, and I'll pop that back in the chat for you if I can here. And this will force you to make a copy of that. So what we're going to do when you open this note catcher, we are, oh, sorry, that only went to one person. There you go. What I'm going to have you do, now there's a lot of information on this in this section of our note catcher, and not way more than we can cover in a 1 hour session. So what I would like you to do is when you take a look at it, just choose one of the 3 categories presented corresponding to the 3 stages of universal design for learning. So choose to focus your time on either engagement, on representation, or on action and expression. And then there's links within there in the note catcher for you to just brief reading. It should take about 3 to 4 minutes for you to just quickly scan through the information. And again, you're only choosing one. So if you choose engagement, you're just going to click on the link to read about engagement. And then as you're reading it, think about how this pertains to your classroom. How could you apply this in your classroom? And then in your breakout rooms, you're just going to share, brainstorm your responses. There's some discussion questions there for you. Just kind of organize yourselves and to discuss some of those. Your breakout rooms are not going to be divided. So you're going to have colleagues who have done engagement, representation, and action and expression all together. And that's fine. That broadens our conversation. So, just kind of say, I had engagements, and, and then you can respond to your discussion questions that way, and just say what your section is as you're doing that. Okay. So I'm going to send you into some breakout rooms. Oh, it is not letting me do that. There we go. It will let me know. Okay, so you should end up with about 5 or so people in a room. You automatically join, and then I will let you know when it is time to come back. Okay.
Or if anybody else joins while everyone's in the breakout rooms, I'll make sure they get assigned.
Thank you.
If anyone is having trouble joining their breakout room, let us know either in the chat or come off of mute and we'll help you get where you need to go.
Hi, I just want to see if you're able to hear me in this room.
Maura, you're on mute, but yes, we can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Great, thank you so much.
Welcome back. We'll just give everybody a few moments to finish up in their rooms. All right, it looks like everyone's back. So let's just take a moment as if anybody would like to share anything that came up in their small group discussion on any of these 3 stages of UDL, engagement, representation, or action and expression. Anything notable come up in your breakout rooms that you are excited to share? You can go in the chat or come on off of mute.
I can start with my group. We were discussing about the engagement part, the engagement category. And we discussed about ways of getting the students more engaged, like providing options for them for their reading passages, to the tasks, or even to the homework selection. Another way will be to choose topics as to be culturally responsive to them. It's important for the ELLs to see themselves in the characters and relate to them and to their experiences. Another way is to be using moving to teach vocabulary. And also for discussions to be using translations and translanguaging to teach vocabulary.
Awesome. Yes, I love all of those ideas. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else who wanted to share what they came across in their group? Okay. So we're coming to the close of our time today. So I just want to kind of tell you about where you can go from here in terms of other course offerings that we have for you that you can use to build upon what we did today. So the course that we are coming to our close on today is Course A, Ensuring Equity and Access for ELL and ML Learners. This is where you are. You have these 3 other courses here all available to you. On the topic of English language multilingual learners courses. So you can choose any of these other 3 if you are interested in continuing to go more in depth on this topic. And of course, we have other courses for you as well in other content areas. There is no particular order to these L and ML courses. So if the next one you're available for, you want to jump to C, that's fine. You don't have to go A, B, C, D. You can go in any order that you'd like. And we'd love to see you back in more of our courses. And as we finish up, I would really love if you could take a moment to provide some feedback. I'm putting a form into the chat here for you. Oh, why it keeps going to individual people when I do that? Here we go. Try again. Take 2. There we go. If you can just give some feedback on your experience with our PD today, I would very much appreciate it. Like I said at the beginning, I really respect your time and the time that you're taking to do this. So we're going to close a little bit early so you can take time, hopefully in our last 4 minutes that we would have, to just jump into this link to our PD and to just fill this out for me today. I have enjoyed my time together with you. I've enjoyed your insights and hearing of all you're doing. And I hope you were able to take some useful tools away from what we did today. And I hope to see you back here again in another course. So thank you for spending time with us today.
Just wanted to ask, are you going to be sharing this PowerPoint with us?
We can, yes. You're going to get an email at the completion of this. So I can share this with that, to go out with that. And also a lot of the information and links from this PowerPoint is in that shared note catcher.
And quick question on the CTLE hours. How are we going to be receiving that?
Beth, do you have the answer to that?
Yes, for sure. So you'll receive an email, if not this afternoon, sometime tomorrow, that will have a link to your CTLE certificate. And that email will also include, like Maura just said, the note catcher for today and the slides as well.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
So after we fill out the PD feedback, are we completed?
We are completed for today. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.